Welcome, baseball fans, to Week 6 of State of MLB's Power Rankings. Well, we've hit September starting tomorrow, and we play our final August games today. But given the fact that we have 4 weeks or so left in this season, and we're now in the second half of the season, and even with all the cancellations and postponements and everything, I think it's safe to say that the league has, by and large, played a good half of the shortened season. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into it now. To give you a couple icebreakers and spoilers, the worst team in baseball this week went 0-5, but it wasn't Boston, and it wasn't our last place, the Pittsburgh Pirates. So those two teams are not the worst team. This team, unfortunately, the Golden Sombrero goes to the LA Angels. Now, I really admire what Joe Madden did with Tampa Bay and with Chicago, but they are a far cry from the Associated A's of the Angels. So good luck, Team Madden. You got your work cut out for you. Coming in at number 22, with whom the first team to ever hit 20 losses is now fighting for worst spot with the LA Angels, but they just barely edged them out this week. Coming in at number 28, your Seattle Mariners. This is a team with which last year they were just sitting in the bottom row. This year I was hoping they might break out and head to the middle row. Not so much this time. Coming in at number 27 and big-time sellers, having just sold Robbie Ray and some other players to other teams. They, as much as I thought it might help them to get Bumgarner over last season, he is so far past his prime and even he couldn't revitalize his team. He's also racking up some losses themselves. So, the team with which I often rag on and was last week's 30 team was the Pittsburgh Pirates. They actually managed to not be as horrible as the other 4 teams, and they come in at number 26. Now, that gives their star a rise up by a few spots here. And after getting swept by Chicago, dropping 2-3 to Milwaukee, they actually did rebound and take 2 games from St. Louis. And there in and of itself, those 2 wins salvaged their week. And interestingly enough, of the teams that had the worst record, the team that had the worst week hasn't even been mentioned yet. But we'll get there because they're going to be on the bottom row here too. Coming in at number 25, a team that has been disappointing to me has been the Texas Rangers. I thought they had a lot more potential. I thought they could have contended for a good spot here, but they're just so heavily inconsistent. And dropping 2 out of 3 to Oakland, dropping 2 out of 3 to Los Angeles, those are very, very solid teams. But you went 2-4, okay? It just doesn't get the job done. And Oakland's even division contender here. So, unfortunately, they're going to be wanting from their year. We'll see how the rest of the season goes, but at this point in time, it looks like their best option is to play spoiler. Coming in, number 24, your Kansas City Royals. A team with which a lot of projections at the beginning of the year were this is going to give them a lot of other teams that are contenders, like Cincinnati, for example, the opportunity to steamroll them. What has happened is they've actually managed to play fairly well against some decent teams, i.e. Minnesota. This week, however, was not the case. Going 2-4 between St. Louis and Chicago. Eat a little humble pie, drop 3 spots, and there's your Royals. Now, the team with the worst week, going 0-5, getting swept by Tampa in 2 games and swept by Toronto, both division rivals, have sunk the Orioles into their traditional. They've been in bottom place, but they maintain their traditional stance at bottom of the division and one of the worst teams in baseball. However, they're strong. They're a strong start to the season. They're winning some games you didn't expect them to win, enabled them to not sink entirely fall. That gives them a little bit of buffer, so they're still in the bottom row, but they're not as bad as other teams. Coming in at number 22, your defending World Series champions, Washington Nationals, will not be joining us in the postseason this year. I know I probably could have ate my own breakfast for that one last year when they made a surprise end of the season roll-up. They're just too far out with too few games left to go. You're talking about 4 weeks of baseball games. It's not like you have two and a half months to get hot. You've got 4 weeks. They're too far back. They're in last place in their division, and they just had an awful 1-5 week, getting swept by Philadelphia and dropping 2-3 to Boston. They're going to be couch sitting this postseason. Coming in at number 21, your St. Louis Cardinals. Now, there wasn't much to gauge them on when they had all those lost games due to COVID. And I thought because they had division champions last year, they ousted the Braves in the playoffs. You know, they had a lot of their players coming back, but those players are also a year older. At the same time, I thought, okay, now they're going to start getting their games caught up. If they can do well with the grind, they have a chance to make up some serious ground. I think, however, the grind itself may be a detriment to their success in the sense that they aren't really winning the games. Sure, they took 2 out of 3 from Kansas City, but they dropped 2 out of 3 against Cleveland, and they got swept by Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh, who I often rag on this year as being one of the worst teams in baseball. The grind itself may not be prepared for that. And it is what it is. It's a very special year. So, coming in at number 20, the teams with whom are contending for that wild card spot. Doesn't mean they're going to make it anywhere in the playoffs, but you got to figure the top 16 teams are going to the playoffs. So, here's the row. Here's the year where we get to discuss who gets to sneak in there and at least get a playoff game of some form or fashion. And of course, once season's over, if you're in, then all bets are off. Anything can happen. So, who's going to sneak in? Coming in number 20, the Mets dropped 3 out of 5 to the Yankees, and they dropped 2 out of 3 to Miami. Not exactly a great way to make a mark on the postseason. Miami itself isn't exactly a contender themselves, although they are wannabes and potentially pretenders. So, what does it say about New York? It says that they have a lot of players who are underperforming, and just like Boston, their pitching is just not there. Coming in number 19, your Miami Marlins. I am hoping that they can rise their star and be a playoff team. I don't think they have the depth or the talent to go deep, but it would be nice and for parity of the sport to see them actually make the playoff spot. But after taking 2 out of 3 from New York, they did get swept by their division rival Tampa Bay. Not their division rival, I'm sorry. Their Eastern rival, because they're technically NL East versus AL East. Okay, minus slip of the tongue. But yeah, swept by Tampa Bay. Their interleague rival, because Miami and Tampa Bay play each other in interleague series. Rivals like New York, and LA, they are the rivals there. But Tampa Bay's got a very good team this year. So, in any event, coming in number 18, your Cincinnati Reds. My sleeper team of the year has been disappointingly underperforming all year. Not that I really expected them to do much. I was kind of hoping they would. It'd be nice to see them break the parity streak and make a playoff appearance. They haven't been there since they got swept by the Philadelphia Phillies several years ago. I was hoping, but beyond hope, you know. They can still play spoiler and still make things interesting for our teams. And they split against 4 games against both Milwaukee and Chicago, being divisional rivals. The Cubs at the White Sox, okay? So, they still have the potential to play spoiler and make things interesting. Having said that, coming in at number 17, your Milwaukee Brewers. The Brewers splitting against Cincinnati, taking 2 out of 3 from Pittsburgh. Not exactly auspicious contenders, but and they didn't really excel by sweeping or anything like that, but they're middle of the row. They did rise their star about 7 spots from 24 to 17 this week. At the same time, they're also at the point in time where they are on the outside looking in. They were pegged as having playoff aspirations, and they definitely made the playoffs in the wild card round last year, but they're letting the winnable games get away from them, and they're playing themselves out of playoff contention. So, getting now in the top 16 here, who are the teams that are currently sitting in a playoff-bound spot? Coming in number 16, your Colorado Rockies, after sweeping Arizona and then dropping 2 out of 3 to San Diego. I can't hold out too much against them because San Diego is playing a lot better than they did last year. And after having a 4-2 week, that's not too shabby. I mean, that's your 2 out of 3 more or less per 3-game set. It's a decent shot there. They're still in 3rd place, but they're on the inside track for getting a playoff spot. However, they're on the last spot, but you have to start somewhere, so let's see what happens. Coming in at number 15, underperforming last year and this year bouncing a lot better. And they didn't have a great week going 2-5 between Toronto, Boston, and Atlanta, but they do rise their star by 8 spots, going up from 27 to 15. Finally, I told you I was going to start weighing their season-long performance more so than their given weekly schedule. Otherwise, 2-5 would have had them back down there near 27-ish. However, because they do have a track record of the first half of the season so far, they get to be middle of the road here, which is a gift for Philadelphia considering how they're playing. Speaking of gifts, coming in number 14, your Detroit Tigers had, among the 3 teams who had the best weeks, Detroit goes 5 wins and 1 losses. Congratulations, Detroit. You surprised us all, and as a result, you get to raise your spot by several. Going up from 23 to 14, you raise your spot like 9 spots. I mean, you did a damn good job, and you did it against good, solid teams. You took 2 out of 3 from the Cubs. You swept Minnesota. Fantastic work. Those accolades definitely deserve a rising your spot. Now, let's see if you can hold on to your wild card contending spot and actually make the playoffs for a change. Coming in at number 13, your San Francisco Giants are turning things around. They did drop 2 spots from last week, going from 11 to 13, after they dropped 2 out of 3 to the Dodgers, but took 2 out of 3 from Arizona. They had a very, very average week, going 3-3. But the fact of the matter is, the fact that they're in a playoff wildcard spot when they started off the season very rough shows they are positioning themselves to do something with it. What that is remains to be seen, but it's still encouraging for the Giants. Now, coming in at number 12, a team that has definitely dropped in their positioning are the New York Yankees, who were previously not only a couple weeks ago in the number 1 spot, have fallen all the way to 12. And for those who are Yankee haters, I'm sure you're cheering their decline. For those who are Yankee lovers, I'm sure you're just so overwhelmingly frustrated with the hitting, the pitching, the blown saves, and all the crap that has been causing them to fall in their spot. They got swept by Atlanta. They did rebound, taking 3 out of 5 against the New York Mets. But they're the New York Mets. As a result, because you had a very hard week, and you go 3-3 on the week, your overall performance on the field drops you 7 spots. It's up to you to get it back. However, I will commend Gary Sanchez for hitting a grand slam home run in extras against the Mets after going 0 for the century this year. Who saw that one coming? Coming in number 11, the Houston Astros are 1 above New York, and after last year taking out New York in the ALCS, I'm sure they're quite happy to be back above New York for a change. Houston, having gone 4-1 this week, takes 2 out of 3 from the lowly Angels, and then they take the powerhouse Oakland Athletics and sweep them. Granted, they were home games, but they still beat them 2 games straight. As a result, you get to rise 1 spot from 12 to 11 and jump over the New York Yankees for your spot. So, now then, who are this week's top 10? A team that has had one of the best weeks tying Detroit for 5 wins and 1 loss. Coming at number 10, your Toronto Blue Jays. And I'm surprised to even be mentioning the Blue Jays in the top 10. So kudos to you for forcing the tongue, Toronto. You rise 3 spots from 13 to 10 after splitting with Boston 1-1, but then sweeping your divisional rival Baltimore Orioles. Kudos, well done. Now, you've got the top 10. Can you stay there? Coming in at number 9, rising 1 spot, your defending NL East Division champion Atlanta Braves. After sweeping New York, and then taking 2 out of 3 from Philadelphia, they have definitely maintained their grasp and their hold on the first spot in the NL East, and it's theirs to lose. It really is. And fundamentally now they're going to be to potentially cruise into a division championship. They get to have their pick and litter with the wild cards to feast on. Coming when playoff time comes. Coming in at number 8, your Minnesota Twins. They do drop a couple spots because they are in 3rd place behind Chicago and Cleveland. And they did have one horribly rough week going 1-5. Having done it against the Cleveland Indians and the Detroit Tigers. I mean, Minnesota, fundamentally, I love you to death. You have a phenomenal team, very deep rotation, very deep lineup, a lot of things going for you. You really do. But you just got swept by the Detroit Tigers. What kind of statement are you trying to make here? Are you telling us that you're going to be able to take a sweep from the Detroit Tigers, run into the playoffs, and make a statement? Are you telling me you can perform that way against your divisional rival Detroit Tigers and then still overtake Chicago and Cleveland for your division? Now, granted, you did take out Cleveland last year for the division, but this is a new year, and you got 4 weeks to show us what you can do. We'll be watching. Coming in at number 7, your Chicago Cubs. The Cubs rising 3 spots and owning their division in the NL Central. Only did 3-4 this week, dropping 2 out of 3 to Detroit and splitting with Cincinnati. Not exactly a great track record, but on the season, they're doing very, very well. As a result, despite the fact they had a mediocre week, they still get to rise 2 spots from 9 to 7. And they're just oodles of potential here. Coming in at number 6, your San Diego Padres. San Diego being second in their division only to the Los Angeles Dodgers. That's not too shabby, especially considering the fact that you had an average week going only 3-3. It did cost you 3 spots in the power rankings because other teams have outright excelled this week. So I like to be able to talk about who's playing better than other teams versus who's playing worse than other teams. However, you have so much up and down, so much unpredictability, so many postponements, so many crazy things going on this week that at this point in time, sometimes a good team hasn't just played an average week, and that's good. It is what it is. We still have plenty of things to cheer for, plenty of things to enjoy, and still plenty of power coming. Coming in number 5, your Cleveland Indians. Only second in the division, but they do make the top 5 because they are showing great potential, great strength. They just took 2 out of 3 from Minnesota and 2 out of 3 from St. Louis. They do rise 3 spots, and they have an excellent track record to go with them for the year. Can they take over from the Chicago White Sox? We'll see. We still have some head-to-head going on there, so that'll be some fun games to catch on to. Speaking of Chicago, they come at number 4 after sweeping the Pittsburgh Pirates and taking 2 out of 3 from divisional rival Kansas City Royals. They maintain their same spot, going 4-1. Granted, they did not play the strongest of competition, but they won those games with which you'd be surprised how hard that is to do. I mean, winning games, you're supposed to win, Minnesota. Alright, enough kidding around. the dominant team in the NL West, Oakland Athletics, have actually, I am very pleased to be able to say they are doing better than the Houston Astros. But when we came into the season, I really didn't know if anybody could effectively challenge Houston. They took their playoff loss against Tampa, and boom, they are on fire. They are playing on all cylinders, and they're doing a hell of a job doing it. They do fall one spot, but because they did drop 2 games to Houston, and that does cost them a little bit, but they took 2 out of 3 from Texas, and they're showing as much strength as they've ever had. They have one of the best records in the game, and I believe they're still the best record in the AL. But in any event, they're still, it's theirs for the taking. I don't see Houston catching them, and the rest of the division is not going to. So speaking of true power and strength, the best teams in baseball as of Week 6 of the 2020 season, coming in at number 2 and AL East leaders, the Tampa Bay Rays have been using this short, abbreviated season to their advantage and just been killing it. They are designed for the one game setup between using Snell, Morton, and Glasnow. They have phenomenal bullpen to win bullpen games. Their hitting keeps coming at you. Their bullpen doesn't give up. They have a very solid, very deep team, and they are the third and final team to have an extremely strong week. They are tied with Toronto and Detroit for 5-1 this past week after sweeping Miami and sweeping Baltimore, and of course they dropped a game in there. Probably from Monday, or left over from last weekend. Either way, they are a team to be reckoned with, and they have shown that they can take out Boston. They have shown they can take out New York, and they have shown they can play with anybody. Therefore, if you all here want to make your mark, if you get Tampa on your schedule, both look out because they're very dangerous and very good. But there's your chance to try and make a name for yourself. Good luck at that one. Coming in for a second week in a row, number 1, your Los Angeles Dodgers, having the best record in baseball, and undeniably, uncontested best team in baseball between their depth of hitting, pitching, bullpen, special teams, everything. They went 4-2 this week, taking 2 out of 3 from San Francisco, taking 2 out of 3 from Texas, and they could cruise the rest of the season and still probably own their division. But at the same time, they do have they still have that mark of the World Series staying on their back to try and rectify. And quite frankly, I don't see anything stopping. I really don't. They are. Definitely, everybody picked them to be a World Series contender this year and the favorite to get to the World Series, let alone win it. So we'll see what happens. But to y'all, let me know what you think about what I think. Should your team be higher? Should it be lower? You let me know where you would put your teams and what you think about where I put your team. Let me know about how your team is performing. Do you think I've judged them accurately? Was too hard on, too light on them? You let me know. If you just happen to be coming across this video on YouTube, please hit like and subscribe. It really helps the channel. And as always, thank you for watching. I'll talk to you next time. Enjoy the game this week.